let us start now. So we will just go back a bit by a few slides just to establish a continuity because there was quite a long break. So just to establish continuity, I've gone back by a couple of slides where the question which I'm asking is, can all types of inventions be patented? Inventions can be patented. Question is, can all types of inventions be patented? Or better asked, the question may be that if I've done an invention, right, that automatically, be available for patenting. So for that, as we have discussed earlier, but I'm just repeating that these inventions are subjected to two filters to establish whether my invention can get patented or not get patented. The first part is whether the type of invention I have done is that patentable at all. Forget about satisfying other conditions of patentability, but whether it is patentable at all, that's subject matter. So that is our filter number one out here. So what it says in the filter number one, that the law, the patent law, tells you that it has made a list of inventions, types of inventions. It has made a list of the types of inventions and says that as per patent law is concerned, please mark my words, that as far as patent law is concerned, the patent law does not recognize that invention or that type of invention is an invention in the law, in the patent law. So if it does not satisfy that condition, that it has given a list, and if it falls within the list, then the patent office will tell, we can't give you patent because it is fallen within the list of items which cannot be patented. So they don't even go further to it. So therefore, if some of these inventions are put through that first filter, if it gets stuck in the first filter, that the law does not recognize that as an invention at all, then you will not get a patent in any case. Why? Because patents are given for inventions. Law is saying this type of invention I do not consider to be an invention, so gone. Then it won't go through the second filter. If it goes through the first filter, then whatever survives the first filter in terms of subject matter, whether it can be patented or not, that is put through the second filter. And the second has to be novelty, inventive step, and capable of industrial application. Then all inventions which have gone through the first filter must satisfy these three conditions at the same time. Any one of the three conditions not satisfied, you don't get a patent. So therefore, you put it through the second filter. These inventions which survived the first filter went to the second filter. And out of that, one got stuck and three went through. And those three get patent, that one which got stuck there does not get a patent. So we have to subject our inventions to both the filters. And as we have done before, that if I take my, what the law, the Indian law says, that it has given us the list from A to Q. It's called section 3. It says what are not inventions within the meaning of the act. What does it say? That this part of the law has given us a list of types of inventions which are not considered to be inventions within the meaning of the act in India, and therefore you don't get a patent for this type of invention. What are they? An invention which is frivolous, or which claims anything obviously contrary to well-established natural laws. So, frivolous. So, for example, if you say, that look, I have invented a perpetual machine, right? I've invented a perpetual machine. What will the patent? What does the patent law say? Oh, this is all frivolous. Why? Because if you take the laws of thermodynamics, it clearly tells you that under this natural law, you cannot get a perpetual machine. So you may say your machine is perpetual, if you say it's a perpetual machine, you will not get a patent for it. So this type of frivolous claim will not be given. Clear? Then any invention, the primary or intended use. See, important words are the primary or intended use, or commercial exploitation of which would be, contrary to public order or morality, or which causes prejudice, plant life, or to health and environment. No, that is not considered to be an invention, even though it may be the greatest invention on earth. You will not get a patent. So one of the typical examples would be that public order or morality. So suppose we are talking about harvesting stem cells, right? Would anyone kindly tell me that if I want to harvest stem cells, okay, at what stage and from where will I be able to harvest stem cells? I'm expecting a response. My question is that I want to harvest stem cells. And if I want to harvest stem cells, then which part of the body I will go to harvest the stem cells? Anybody, please?
Bone,
It would
bone marrow.
no
Bone marrow.
the
Will I
embryo
get
actually.
embryo?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Bone marrow. Yes.
No, embryo will be the best. Why?
Yes, sir.
Because
embryo.
because
Please go
because
ahead.
it has the it has the totipotent cells which can actually transform to any of the different type of cells, whereas
Absolutely.
bone marrow stem cells are
Absolutely.
for only a single type, like they can
Absolutely.
become.
Absolutely. The answer is absolutely correct. So when we go to the embryo, that will have the largest amount of undifferentiated cells. And as you rightly said, that if I extract that, that is where I'll be able to get the highest harvest of stem cells. Now, if I want to harvest stem cells and work on stem cells, and I have harvested from the embryo, argument purpose, what does my action lead to? What does my action lead to?
You're killing a
Killing.
fetus.
Absolutely. I am therefore killing that particular, life, which means that it falls under something of morality. It is against morality. And because it is against morality, patent office will come and tell me, you've done a great piece of work. Yours as such may be a great invention. But as far as patent law is concerned, it will not consider that as an invention. Therefore, you will not get a patent under this condition. Are you appreciating now? So therefore, if I have to do work on stem cells, okay, and I extract from embryo, that method will not get a patent. Why? It will fall under this prohibited list. But if you did it from the skin or you did it from the bone marrow, then you may be able to get a patent for that sort of an invention. Is that clear? Now, so that was the example of.
So one
Please,
question.
please.
So, but if we develop something, so like let's say weapons development, so is it actually under, will it be allowed for patent or no?
Wonderful question. I will answer this question from 2 points of view. See here, an invention, see the wording, invention, the primary or intended use. Primary or intended use. Now, when you come to weapon, if the primary or intended use is to kill people, is to destroy things, then it may fall under this particular prohibition. However, on the same, I invent a knife, and my knife, I say, the primary or intended use of that knife is to cut fruits. To cut fruits. Then, and if that knife satisfies other conditions of patentability of thing, then I may get a patent for the fruit knife or the bread knife. Now you may come and argue that, look, you have made it for the fruit. Somebody uses to kill somebody. Then how can you guarantee? Then I will come back and tell you, please see what is my primary or intended use. Somebody has misused, but see the intended primary or intended use. Correct? So that is very important. Similarly, if you take the example of, say, any explosive. Now, if I make an explosive, if the primary or intended use of the explosive is to create a safe explosion, to, let us say, to break the rocks to make a bridge, then the primary or intended use is not against morality. I mean, it's not against public order or morality or against the environment. But if somebody shows, so now if a terrorist uses it, but then the terrorist is misusing it. The primary or intended use was not a terror use. Have I answered your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Sir,
Please.
sir, then can we say that any patentable invention must be technological in nature? That patentable invention means they must solve something, any new method for any technical problem.
That is true, but having said it, that is absolutely correct. You're right. However, having said it, now if somebody comes and says that, that I have developed this explosive, that this explosive is so good that it can silently go and blow up everything indiscriminately. That is also doing a technical job. But then you may start to question whether the primary or intended use, what was the primary and intended use of that invention? Number one. And number two, does it cause serious prejudice to human, animal, or plant life or health or to the environment? So you have to answer both the questions.
Okay.
So for example, another example, let us take. Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
If, please.
Yeah,
please
with
ask.
this only. So, if these inventions, which in a way cause issues in the public order, now, then how to let's say safeguard these inventions with respect to country by country, when
Correct.
in any way, I mean, if we do not patent it and somebody else's patent law allows it to be patented, then we may have issues in getting the technology or developing the technology based on any of the laws. So how to safeguard these inventions?
So you're absolutely correct. You're 100% correct in asking this question. Therefore, if I have developed a technology, the first thing would be to define what is my primary or intended use. That's the first. Let me say that suppose I have created an explosive device, like a bomb, an explosive device. Now you may say, what was the primary or intended use of the device? If the primary or intended use of the device, for example, was a peaceful use of atomic energy, argument purpose, peaceful use, that was the primary or intended use, right? And if I do a controlled explosion, not an uncontrolled explosion, but a controlled explosion, by taking care of all the other features that I need to take care while doing an explosion,
Yes.
I may ask, my intended use was positive, therefore it should not fall within that objection. Second, I would say if you did it in a controlled manner and did it with all the precautions, then it is not a serious prejudice to human, animal, or plant life or health or environment. Then I'll say it should not fall within this particular objection. Then I will sail through this objection. So it very much depends on how you put your things.
Okay.
And how the patent office will look at it and whether your arguments are reasonable and whether your arguments will go through.
Okay.
So now you can see that how when we do our inventions and we want to protect, how we have to think about these aspects also. Mere technical advance may not give me a protection. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, the mere discovery, I mean, the other part, I don't know whether I gave you this example before, but suppose I design a device, and this is a very novel device for pickpocketing, right? You know, I in a remote way press some buttons and all the 100 rupee notes and 500 rupee notes come to me automatically from your pockets. It extracts. And I say it's a novel device for pickpocketing. It's a fantastic invention. Patent law will say, oh, this is against public order or morality. We can't give you a patent for this. Primary or intended use. Very important how you express what your invention was meant for. The primary or intended use. Then come to the next. A mere discovery of a scientific principle or formulation of an abstract theory or discovery of any living thing or non-living substance in nature is not considered to be an invention within the Indian Patent Act. So let's start from the reverse side. That if I take, you know, a cell, I extract the genes from there, and I tell I'm the first person who have extracted these genes and identified the sequence, etc., etc., etc. Can I get a patent for that? The Patent Act here will tell you that gene was already existing in nature. You only extracted it. So even though others did not do, you may have done a fantastic scientific breakthrough. You may not get a patent for it, but you can publish your result. So the mere discovery of scientific principle, formulation of an abstract theory, or discovery of any living thing or non-living substance in nature, then it is not considered to be an invention within the meaning of the Act in India. Then I will come to 3D later. So 3D, I will come later. So let me go E. A substance obtained by mere admixture, resulting only in the aggregation of properties of components thereof, or a process for producing such substance. What does A with substance B with substance C? Let us say that I take 0.33 of A, 0.33 of B, and 0.33 of C. Argument purpose. I mix it and I get D. And I look at the properties of D. And if the properties of D is equivalent to the mathematical summation of the properties of 0.33A, 0.33B, and 0.33C, then it is a mere aggregation of the properties of the components thereof. And therefore, I will not get a patent for this. Why? Because it is coming on the list by saying a substance D obtained by mere admixture of A, B, and C, resulting only the aggregation of the properties of A, B, and C thereof. It is falling within that, therefore you will not. But if I mix A, B, and C, 0.33, 0.33, 0.33, I get D. And that D corresponds, argument purpose, in some property of D where the contribution of A is not 0.33, though I took only 0.33 of A, but the effect in D is like as if it is 0.4 of A and 0.3 of B, a B, and something, so that the total becomes 1. Then there, how did I get that? That means in this particular mix, I mixed it in such a way, or I did something that the effectiveness of these components reflecting in D, there was some sort of a synergy which enhanced the effect of one with respect to the other. Then it will go through. But if it's a mere mathematical summation, of each of the properties of each of the components and their weighted quantities, then you will not get a patent for that, because that does not satisfy the condition of patentability.
So then,
yeah, go please ask.
so then if D becomes completely something new, new component, then what will happen?
Now see,
That not
very interesting. Let us argue from what you just said. Suppose I mix A, B, and C to get D. Nobody on earth has ever mixed A, B, and C to get D. Correct? I'm the first person.
Yes.
The first person.
Yes,
therefore, it's something new. It's a novel thing which I have done. But
yes.
then my thing will be to show that in case of D which I have created, this D, the properties of D is not a mere mathematical weighted sum of quantities of A. That means I'll have to show that there is some synergy between the components A, B, and C to get D, where my properties of D are not mere summation, but there's an enhancement.
Oh, okay.
So one
Mathematical.
more thing.
Yeah, please.
So this law, this particular part can be misused in the sense like, suppose when I'm doing actually research regarding different compositions, so I know there is a composition which will give the best efficacy. So like you have D, which has the best, but in reaching that, I know that I have had previous combinations which are slightly lesser in the efficacy. So if I kind of patent this slightly lesser, and then when the patent is about to expire, then I do the better one, which I already know, then this is kind of a loophole to exploit this patent, right? So it can be
Well, I
extended.
wouldn't call it loophole. That is what inventions are all about. I do a strategic use of my invention. So I have not disclosed the enhancement. I show the lower one first, and later on I stop anyone from using this. But in the meanwhile, if somebody else has found D, then I can't do anything to that person.
Okay.
So there is a downside also.
Okay.
There is a downside also.
Because I believe this is one of the techniques which was used by pharma companies to actually extend the patents on their medicines.
It can't extend patents. Why it can't extend patent? See, a patent has a fixed lifetime.
Yes, sir.
So, if you were having this particular, the first invention of yours, that will have a 20-year lifetime from the time you file the patent application.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
provided you get the patent. Now, if you later on come with the other invention, when the first one expires, then people can then use the first one, but they can't use the second one.
Yes. Okay.
So this is strategically, this is a strategic use.
Okay.
Now, the mere arrangement or rearrangement or duplication of known devices, each functioning independently of one another in an own way. Argument purpose again. Let's take a very simple case. I have an umbrella. Okay. Now, how does an umbrella function? That I open it and I get the protection of the umbrella. Now, if the road is dark, I also in that umbrella, I have fixed a torch. Okay. And I put on the torch. Torch shows light. Let's assume that nobody ever on earth have created an umbrella with a torch. My article is new. You will agree with me? Nobody on earth has made an umbrella with a torch. Now I go to the patent office to file a patent on this. Will patent office say, look, your umbrella is working like an umbrella, your torch is working like a torch. Both are working independent of each other. And each of them, therefore it is only a mere arrangement or rearrangement or duplication of known devices, each functioning in a known way. Torch is being put in a known way, umbrella is opening in the known way, and therefore I'm getting light and shade together. Now, I want to convert this. So then patent office will say, I will not give you patent because it falls within this. So now what do? I create a torch with a sensor. Now, as soon as it starts raining, few drops that fall on the umbrella, right? My umbrella opens. Why? Because you've done the umbrella in such a way that only with certain number of drops that will fall on the umbrella, or certain, or the humidity goes up or something happens, that your umbrella will open. Okay, so that is one. Second, what happens that as it is beginning to rain, argument purpose, the light has gone down, is getting to become a bit dark. Automatically, the torch comes on, right? So now the umbrella and the torch, or third, that if it's going to rain and it suddenly becomes very dark, then the umbrella and the torch open simultaneously. Now, if that's the invention, then let us analyze. Is it a mere arrangement or rearrangement or duplication of known devices, each functioning independently of one another in a known way? If it is not so, then this invention may go out of this objection. So now you can see that when we want to do our research and we are designing solutions to these technical problems, and we want to protect those technical solutions, when I go to publish, there is no bar in publishing. The moment I say I want protection for it, then I have to think of the type of experiments that I have to do, or the type of devices I have to make, which can get the protection through the patent system. Is it clear?
Sir, I have a question
Please.
regarding point E, wherein we are talking about admixturing. So let's say there is one patent which has which is having a patent wherein A, B, C gets us D, and I come up with another admixturing procedure which gives me much more efficient output, or in a way I'm getting D in a much more better way, or some other parameters, but it is not the same way of admixturing it. Can it be patented, or can it come out of this point E?
It will come out of this point, because you are now looking at not a new product, but a new process, and an enhanced process or a better process. So you will come out of this. Then there are other conditions which you have to satisfy, which I'll come later on. But will you come out of this condition? Answer is 100% yes. Will you get a patent? Now we'll have to see whether it will go through or filter number 2. And we will discuss the filter number 2 afterwards.
Okay, sir.
You're absolutely correct. But then at this stage, your thing will also have to go through filter number 2. Filter number 1, it has survived. Okay?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So now let's go to the next one. That a method of agriculture or horticulture in India, if you say that I have, I will show you how to plow the field better, then even though this plowing method is so good, you may not get a patent in India, because then it will fall under this. That is the method of agriculture. So now you may ask a question: how can I protect my invention when I'm working in agriculture, but then I'm wanting to protect? So then we literally to reword, restructure. So I may have to design my experiments and do my research in such a way that A, I will get out of this, B, out of this, and I will also. So, for example, if you say that I have found a new way of ruffling up the soil, now I may go and say, no, I may not use the word soil and for agriculture. I may go and say that, well, I'm doing where I can ruffle up or reshuffle materials or reorganize materials. After what is plowing? Is reorganizing the materials. It digs and reorganizes the material. Now, somebody goes and uses that in agriculture. You then go and shoot that fellow down. Say, look, that is my patent. He will tell you, look, I'm using it in agriculture. My use in agriculture is falling within the exception of this. Therefore, don't touch me. You go and do it for other materials. I'm not doing it for other materials. So there are lots of these ifs and buts that come into it. Then, and this is a very important one. I. Very important. Now look at the wordings of that. It says any process for medicinal, surgical, curative, prophylactic, diagnostic, therapeutic, or any treatment of human beings, or any process for a similar treatment of animals to render them free of disease or increase their economic value or their products, that is not patentable in India. So let us look at what is the meaning of this. So I develop, let us say, a new injection as a device. I develop a new injection as a device. Let us say I have done for the first time a needle-less injection. A needle-less injection. That's a major technical advance. Of course, nowadays, all these are commercial products, but I'm just saying as if I've done it for the first time. Now I do this. Now, for the injection as a device, I will get a patent. If it satisfies, I will go out of this. If it's only a device. However, the method of using it on the human body would put me into the whole thing of medicinal, surgical, prophylactic, diagnostic, or therapeutic, or other treatment. It may fall in or other treatment of human beings. So the method of giving the injection may not be patentable. It will fall under this, but the injection will be patentable. It will satisfy the other condition. Similarly, I find a new way of doing an operation. Can I get a patent for this new way of doing operation? My answer is no. It will fall under this surgical method. Why they don't give you patents for such things? That if doctors start patenting their methods in surgery, then any other doctor who wants to use the same thing will have to take permission from the other doctor. Here the patient is dying, and you're asking to take permission from the other doctor to do the surgery. Not done. So there's a lot of social angle to all these laws as well. Any questions on this?
Sir, but I think vaccines and the medicines will not come under this, right? If I understand this
This is
statement
not
here.
vaccines. Therefore, you say
Yeah.
any process. See the
Yeah.
word.
Any process, yeah. So that's the
medicinal process, not product.
yeah.
Any
So
process.
so if any life-saving drugs are there which can save, but they are still
No, but that's
patented,
not
so
a
we cannot.
process. No, that is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
a process. That's a
Sir,
product.
sir, I have a question.
Please.
Sir, nowadays we see a lot of research is going on in medical diagnosis using computers, my expert systems, or nowadays AI also.
Correct.
So, if somebody
Correct.
develops a algorithm or a software which can take the
Correct.
input from sensors and then make a diagnostic decision, so
Yes.
is that software patentable, or because that is a
Can you?
process? So
I would request you to hold on to this question for 5 minutes. Okay, I'm
Okay,
coming
sir.
to that. I will coming to that. I'll
Oh.
request you to hold the question for 5 minutes.
Okay,
I'm
sir.
exactly coming to that after the J. Okay, when I come to
Okay, sir.
A, I will answer that question.
Okay,
So
sir.
kindly hold on for 5 minutes on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then it says plants and animals in whole or part thereof other than microorganisms, but including seed, varieties, species, and essentially biological processes for production or propagation of plants and animals is not patentable in India. What does this mean? So plants and animals in whole or parts thereof. That is not patentable. However, it says other than microorganisms. So if you create a new microorganism by whichever means, that you may be able to patent. But plants or plants, etc., goes into another law where it goes in. So you don't get patents in India for plants, but you can protect it under what is known as New Plant Varieties Act. So microorganisms, you can protect by patents in case you have created new microorganisms, right? So I will come to that example later. Now, the seeds, varieties, all that if you do, that you will be able to protect under new plant varieties. Come to an essentially biological processes. So let us say that I am developing a IVF method. What is IVF? In vitro fertilization.
In vitro fertilization.
In vitro fertilization.
So I develop an in vitro fertilization method. Now I do that. I'm doing it outside the human body. So I do the creation of this particular egg outside the human body. There I have had contribution, I've done it. Then I take that and what do? I implant it. Where do I implant? I implant it in a woman's, the fetus. I've just created the environment in the human body. Then the female body takes over. And after the female body takes over, the entire body is essentially a biological process. So if I have to protect the IVF method, what I've done in vitro, I can protect. What is happening in vivo, I can't. Why? Because it is essentially biological process for production or propagation of plants and animals. Forget about the plants part of it, the animal, which includes human also. You understanding?
Sir,
So,
I have a question.
Please.
Why are microorganisms excluded from this?
Coming to that part. Why are microorganisms excluded from this? It's a very good question. The reason microorganisms are excluded from this is that people have found that when you create these new microorganisms, now when you create the new microorganism, you're creating the new microorganism for a certain purpose. Let us say you will use it for fermentation to produce some new chemicals, or you create a microorganism which will, which has a specific function, or you'll create a microorganism which will give you a particular which will give you a different, say, it will create some chemicals or something, right? So you can actually engineer microorganisms in different ways. That is one of the things in biotechnology that people have looked at, that if you create these microorganisms, they have a lot and lot of applications and positive applications out there. But if you create a virus like the COVID-19 virus, can I get a patent for that? Answer is no. Why? Because then that would fall into the first part, that for that it may go and damage the environment, etc., etc. So if you then you say, okay, but I'll use it with all the safety measures. Okay, show that, prove it that these are the safety measures, and if I use these safety measures, the primary or intended use is this, and therefore this. But then you know what happened. So you have to be very careful about this.
True. Okay,
Yeah,
sir.
please. Now I go to the next one. Now see the K. That's why I told you, please hold on your question for 5 minutes. The K, what does it say? A mathematical or business method or a computer program per se. Please note the term per se. We'll come to that term as we go along. Or algorithm. So if you create just an algorithm, it's like a mathematical formula. You don't get a patent for it. You create a business method, you don't get. You create a mathematical process, you don't get a patent for it. You can get a soft computer program per se. So now you have to come and show what is the meaning. It does not say computer program can't get. It says computer program per se cannot get. So we have to understand the difference between a computer program and a computer program per se. Now look at the question that was asked from the point of view of 3K. When you look at it from the point of view of 3K, then of course, immediately, what do you realize? You realize that what was the thing that you have developed a tool, let me call it a tool, a software. I'm calling that software a tool. I've created this particular algorithm in such a way that this will embedded it's got a certain function and it solves certain issues. That will not fall under this objection. It will clear through this objection, but it will have to be questioned in filter number 2. I'll come to filter number 2 later. But have I answered your question? If not, please ask again.
Uh, yes, sir. But but which kind of programs will fall under this category, which will not
Ah,
get a patent?
now, so therefore, suppose I write a computer program, which is just, and after all, a computer program is nothing else. What is, when we go to the core of the whole thing, it will be an algorithm.
Yes.
It will be an algorithm basically. Now, if it is only a computer program with an algorithm, then it may get into the problem of a computer program per se. But if I show that there is a workflow in this, and with this workflow, I start with certain type of data, or I start with certain type of information, and it goes through that particular workflow, and that entire information gets upgraded or technically gets enhanced, then
Okay.
that program may fall out of the definition of computer program per se.
Okay, sir.
Or for that matter, I now create a computer program and I use that. And when I use it in a computer, what happens, argument purpose again, what happens is that maybe it uses less of the RAM. Maybe it speeds the whole process up. So there is a technical advantage and it won't fall within that thing of computer program per se.
Okay, sir.
So that is where, but then we have to, when we are working in this field, we have to remember that patent law will take this type of an objection. So we'll have to design our work and design our experiments, design our devices, design our computer programs to come out of this objection if I want to protect. If you want to publish, no issue. But if you want to
But
patent, go ahead.
but I think we can get a copyright, right, for our program.
Absolutely. You can get a copyright for it. Now, the question that comes in is copyright a sufficient protection? And my answer to you that copyright is not always a sufficient protection. I will ask why? Because copyright is an expression. So what I do, you have developed a program. And let us say that what I do is I take that source code or I make a very minor change to the source code. It's a new algorithm and I will get a copyright for mine, you have a copyright for yours. But in the case of a patent, if I get a patent for it and you make that minor change, you may fall within the claims that I've made in my patent, in which case I will come and catch you saying you're copying me. So patent is a very strong protection and it's a very strategic protection.
Okay.
Copyright is a protection, but it's a much weaker protection.
Okay, sir.
So that is very important for us to understand. Then a literary, dramatic, musical, all these, you don't get patent. Why? Because you get copyright.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I could not get. Sir, I could not get what does per se means.
Per se means, okay. If what per se means is that if I have a computer program where obviously each one of us knows that a computer program is nothing else but, when you start putting it down as a flow chart, is a set of processes that take place.
Yes. Yes.
Correct? So
Yes.
we put down a flow chart, we put down all this happens. Now, suppose you put all that, then it's a process, but a mere process.
Yes.
There is none that takes place. The data does not get enriched. Suppose you're doing a data compression and you want to do a compression and it does not, give a very, it's a process, but there is no demonstration that you have given that this can do any major technical advance. Then it is a computer program per se, it's only a mere process, a mathematical process. Then you don't get a patent for it. But when you come and prove that, look, here is the technical advance in real terms, then that is not a computer program per se.
Okay.
So, these are the type of, so that's the reason that in our, it comes from the methodology of research, is because if I know that I am working in the field of, computers, I'm working in the software part, I'm working in, various types of programs, or I'm looking at, I develop these programs, and then when I, embed it in the chip, how it will function, what is that? When I want to do all this, my appreciation that is an important thing, that if I want to protect it, then I must do it in a manner, my research in a manner. I have to create those examples in a manner where I will show that my program which I have developed is not a computer program per se. So it will all come into the designing of my research at that stage. Otherwise, I will do all the work, then I will say, oh, please patent this, and somebody will come and tell you it can't be done because it is a computer program. Then you will say, but I did not know about it. So now you are being made aware of this. So if you are working in this particular field, then you will have to sit with somebody and say, I'm doing this. Is it computer program per se? Will it be interpreted that way? Then if it is answer is yes, okay, how do I escape that interpretation? Then you will design your research. Have I made it clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Good.
Understand.
Now, yeah. Now, if you go to a mere scheme or rule or method of performing mental act or method of playing a game, is not patentable. So let's say that Virat Kohli, it's a six in a particular way. He patents that. Then nobody else can hit a six that way. He will stop everybody. Can a game be played that way? No. That is why a method of playing game cannot be patented. Mental act. Mental act only gives you ideas. It can't be. Presentation of information, you will get copyright. Topography of integrated circuits, there is another law which put it. But if the topography of integrated circuits which you have created has a strong functional element, you can get a patent. Now, the other part is a very important part. Look at this part. Many of us who are involved in this type of work. An invention, see, please mark all the punctuations. An invention which, comma, in effect, comma, is traditional knowledge. Suppose you had removed the commas from there. An invention which in effect is traditional knowledge. You read like that. The meaning of that and the invention which, comma, in effect, comma, is traditional knowledge is completely different. Now you can see the value of those commas. An invention which in effect is traditional knowledge. You cannot protect by a patent. So then, if I'm using traditional knowledge, I'm using various things of all that. Then I will, I will have to design my experiments to show that the invention which I'm doing is not in effect traditional knowledge. Because it says if it is in effect traditional knowledge, then I won't get a patent. Therefore, I will have to show that it is not in effect traditional knowledge. Or which is an aggregation or duplication of known properties of traditionally known component or components. That means if I take an Ayurvedic, formulation, there are 10 substances in that. So there are 10 components. So if I create another combination, it says which is, now I do it, and when I do that, and if the 10 components A, B, C, D with aggregation of the properties are, properties of traditionally known component or components, then I don't get a patent. So again, let us take for argument purpose 2 examples. That if you take, for example, let us say that I take turmeric, haldi. What is the substance in haldi? Anybody? Or let us take neem. What is the active substance in neem? Anybody? Anybody who is a chemist? The active substance in neem is azadirachtin. That's a compound in neem. When you make neem juice, what comes out with everything else, there are many other compounds, but the juice also contains azadirachtin. There may be 5, 20 other or 100 other components in it. The molecule which gives you the strong effect of neem, pesticidal or herbicidal property of neem, is azadirachtin. And it is known, every one of us knows, that when you use neem on plants, you use neem on our wounds, you use neem for various types of other indications. You know that neem is very effective. Let's say that there is an Ayurvedic formulation which is very effective. It is nothing else but this neem mixed with X, Y, and Z. But if you realize that, oh, there is also a problem with neem, that is that as far as azadirachtin is concerned, it has got a very low shelf life. Then the moment it comes out, it gets into a problem, some sort of degradation that takes place in the presence of oxygen and air. So, if you develop a formulation where the azadirachtin gets stabilized, you create some nano azadirachtin and then coat that. You not only get a new substance, but the people will raise this point. Oh, what have you done? It is in effect traditional knowledge. No, see what I have done. In my case, I've stabilized the azadirachtin. In all the traditional, they didn't know how to stabilize the azadirachtin. Therefore, my thing is not in effect traditional knowledge. Have you appreciated that these are whatever examples I took just now? Today, whatever I said to you today, these are all examples. These are all examples. Sorry. They're all examples of our filter number one. What are not inventions within the meaning of the act? Clear?
Yes, sir.
So our A, the 3A to 3P tells us a whole list of inventions which are not considered to be inventions within the meaning of the act, and therefore you don't get a patent. What we will do in the next class will be, we will look at filter number 2 in great detail. That is what will be the topic in the next class. Looking at filter number 2, where we will look at these three terms called novelty, inventive step, and capable of industrial action. So this is where it is. I will stop here at this stage today, unless you have some questions. Please. Yeah, any questions to ask? Feel free to ask any questions.
Sir, in one of the earlier classes, you have told us that a patent is only necessary when uh, we want to manufacture the item or do some business with the idea, something like
Correct.
that.
Correct.
So then then we have to go for a patent only if we want to do business with that thing. Otherwise, it is not necessary, right?
Otherwise, see, it's like this. All this, from whatever you have seen so far, whatever you have seen so far, you can see it needs a lot
Yes.
of effort to get a patent. Now you will spend a lot of money, you will think about all this, and then if you're not going to go commercial or you have no intentions to go commercial, that other option is what? I develop, I file for a patent, and I find some partner to whom I sell this patent. Let them do it.
Okay.
I can even do that. So the important part is what is it that I want?
Okay.
Yeah?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, we will stop here
Hello.
today.
Yeah,
Sir, please go ahead. Please go
Sir,
ahead.
Means filter 2 even proper than filter 1 question mark.
Sorry, could you please speak a bit louder because I did not hear it?
is is filler 2 even tougher than filler 1? Filter 1.
It is very tough. The filter 2 I will do next time is very, very tough. Because there that you have, and that is where further designing of your experiments, further designing of your thought, further designing of all these things become very important. And that's the topic for our next lecture.
So one more thing. Suppose I have made something which can be patented, but I want to distribute it without such that no one else can patent it because I want it to be developed more. So is it possible for me to do that?
Yes, yes. Go and publish it.
Okay.
Just simply publish it.
Okay.
Then
But
it will not belong to anybody. Then anybody
okay.
can develop it further.
But I do not want others to make patents on the basis of that. So if they
No,
enhance it, that is not
important.
possible.
No. Important part is there are two questions which you have asked in one question. Question number one, I do something.
Yeah.
I want others to work on it further and do
Yeah.
something. That's the first part.
Yes.
Now, I want to do something and I want others to take this particular work and do something. First part, how will they know that I was doing this work? The only way of
So
doing it to make it public.
publicity, yes, sir.
How do I make it public? I publish it in a journal or give a radio
Yeah.
talk show or put in the newspaper, put somewhere so people can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
That's one example. The other is that I want people to use it. Therefore, I file a patent, take a patent. Now it is under my control whom I will give it for use and whom I will not give it for use.
Okay.
The decision is mine.
Yeah.
I have to take a decision what I want to do. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. But what I wanted to know was I do not want the process to be commercialized. I want it to so that the price kind of remains low, so that
Because
someone
once
doesn't.
you publish, once you publish it, it goes into the public domain. Then people cannot take a patent on that. Then they can manufacture, they can do whatever. However,
Okay.
now I read your paper and I do an improvement over that. That I can go and patent.
Yeah. So
If
I
it
have no control.
satisfies, if
I
it
have no control
satisfies,
over that.
you have no control for that.
Okay.
Only if you have a patent, you have control for it. You don't have a control when you publish.
Okay.
Yeah, there is
These
one
are
more
very-
question in.
Yeah, please.
There is a question in YouTube.
Please.
It's asking, can you please give an example for B? Because even if an invention has bad intention, it can still be justified in one or the other way.
I agree with you 100%. So suppose I tell you, it's a good question, and let us go back to my example which I gave you, a novel device for pickpocketing. And I told you that this novel device for pickpocketing will not get a patent. Why? Because if I've said use the word pickpocketing, then the primary or intended use of that particular invention is against morality, or then it will fall in that. Now you have done something like this. You say, look, can I protect it? Now you come to me. Then I know why you want to use the word pickpocketing. Don't use the word pickpocketing. Don't talk about pickpocketing. So you can say it is a novel device for remote removal of selective objects. Then the primary or intended use of this is not pickpocketing. If a pickpocketer uses it, is a different story. What is my invention? My invention is a device. Is a device for it's a device which I use external, remote removal. I'm not touching, it's coming out remotely. Remote removal of what? Of selected objects. So there is a way of selecting what I want to remove, and I remove. Then I will escape this problem of what we just talked about. You can see that in the contents and whatnot, it's not only just technology, but a lot of other things mixed up with technology that we need to understand. Any other question? Please feel free. So if there are no other questions, then we shall end the lecture today. And if I'm not mistaken, our next lecture is on the 3rd.
Yes,
Professor
sir.
Naik,
Yes, sir.
it's on
Yes,
the
sir.
3rd. And we will have the next lecture on the 3rd. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you.